There ain't no doubt we've got something going on here.
A theater is a place where lives play out in front of an audience. And once again, I find myself the witting audience to the lives of those departed, still wishing to be heard, for good or for bad, still making their presence known.
Yeah. Something beat on the panel doors that night, just pounding on them, and
yeah.
We come over and look down the stairwells, nothing.
Before that, they actually got a picture of somebody standing on the stairwell here. This is a gentleman right here. His name's Dick Vlastos. Corey was over here and getting ready to thread a projector for that night's show. And he went back in there and started to thread the projector. Again, he hears this big bang in the stairwell, and he goes and looks, and all the panels are standing open. So he kind of freaks out a little bit, and then thought it was me, so he starts yelling for me and telling me, like, this ain't funny, you know, because this stuff scares the daylight out of him. So he went back up, started to thread again, hears a big bang. Comes and looks, and all the doors are shut. And he walks all over, goes everywhere looking for me, and I wasn't there. So then he returns one more time and decides what he's going to do is go up top of the steps and just wait for me so he can catch me. He gets to the top of the steps, and before he even turns around, he hears a big bang, and all the doors have changed positions again. And he called me and he says, "Are we having a movie tonight?" And I said, "Well, yeah, we're supposed to." He said, "Then you better get over and run it." He's not home.
Did you have a large crowd tonight?
My name's Dana Olson, and I'm a resident of Jeffersonville, Indiana. Where we're at right now is a place called the Witch's Castle. Apparently they had a big fire. They never were able to rebuild it. People look at this castle, and it has pretty much a kind of a sense of mysticism to it. When it is dark, they can see the castle, but it kind of looks spooky, so they probably just attached the name Witches to it.
And then I heard back what sounded like, beyond this wall, the sound of two stones being clacked together. That's what we heard. And to me, all the sounds sounded as if they came from on the other side of that block area right there.
Witch's Castle is the subject of legend. Once the site of an inn that burned to the ground and the vicious torture of a teenage girl, this land has been assigned an evil character.
It's going to be difficult.
55, yeah.
But its history may hold an even bloodier past.
In the chapel at Witch's Castle, we find a stone reference to the Druids, a mystical race of mathematicians and astronomers, responsible, some say, for Stonehenge.
Okay. Is there anyone in here?
63.3, 71.6. Can you come by the K2 meter? The device that Caitlin's holding, it's got a green light here. If you can pass the meter and go past the green light, it'll let us know that you're here.
I thought I saw something
On top of it?
Shadows in the woods can play tricks on the mind.
when I was in here by myself.
Or is there really something lurking there among the whispering leaves?
I'll go up and see if I can get a shot of him.
Can't tell. It was like my peripheral. I thought I saw someone go.
Whether originally deserving of the name Witch's Castle, in recent years, this ground has become a favourite haunt for occult practitioners. The team decided to return at night, when the veil between the two worlds is thinner.
This image seemed to appear after we had finished our filming. I discovered it while I was editing the footage, but the image is clear.
It goes back out that way through that wall and through a catwalk.
That's pretty cool.
But long before it was ever called Witch's Castle, this location was called Mistletoe Falls.
Historians theorise that Welsh warriors led by Prince Madoc explored, inhabited and defended this land as early as 1170 AD.
You need to really look at this room and try to figure out what took place in here.
The history of it goes way, way back, long before the time the first settlers arrived here in 1784. There's a stream that comes out of the hills, and there's some stone walls here.
We both kind of had a feeling in the same place for a minute, but
Kind of went away.
yeah, it just came and went.
Since then, I haven't thought of it.
Meter kind of spiked a few times.
Some people think that this site, according to the tradition, that this site and several others here in this vicinity predate the discovery of Columbus. This laid stone is all over this way and up along here too. Now, a group of Welshmen arrived in America in 1170 AD, and they made their way up the rivers through Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, into Kentucky, and eventually made their way to the Falls of the Ohio.
We're here to talk to you. We want to communicate with you.
Are you scared of us?
There is evidence of fortifying walls and battle.
As legend has it, they found a lot of skeletons that were strewn along the creek bank, and some of them were dressed in armor or had bronze breastplates. So it appeared like there had been a battle there.
Bars on the window kind of freaky.
So can you give us a sign you're here tonight?
Is this wall the remnant of a fort that Prince Madoc built?
And we discovered more than urban legend. And we actually found something that dated back centuries.
Are the voices we hear long dead soldiers still keeping watch?
See, I'm thinking there's something else here now.
Especially behind me, that someone was like watching me or something. Like watching me or
The ghosts that I have in my room, they're just repetitive. It's almost like as if you rewound something and just kept playing it over and over and over. They never do anything different.
Right, residual is just like a tape recorder. Same effect, but it happens in the atmosphere. They're not live, what we call live haunting.
I have a guy that paces back and forth. He wears like a vest and he's kind of balding on top, and he puts his hands behind his back and he paces back and forth in the room all the time.
And they wouldn't interact with you. If one was to walk a certain pace, you could stand right there and it would walk right through you because it just wouldn't know you were there, because that's all it is a recording in the atmosphere.
I was starting to pick up images of a murder that happened probably within, there may be 2 murders.
I have someone that stands in the door a tall male figure that stands in my doorway and looks at me. He said, "Go away, we don't want you here." And he went vroom and like come to our bed and got about a foot from the bed and then just was gone. Like vaporized, gone. I have maybe like a 5-year-old boy that stands by the side of the bed. It's mostly just the same, the whole 3.5 years I've been here, it's basically the same apparitions over and over. Sometimes in the corner of the door, there'll be like a kind of well, it's not a mist, but it looks sort of like a shadow that'll kind of come in and it like kind of spreads out.
And the other person that you see is very intense and just standing in the door and glaring. It's one and the same person, but you're seeing the schism, you're seeing the split of this man.
At first I was kind of embarrassed to say anything about it. It happened for a while, and I didn't want to say anything to my husband or anything because I thought he's going to think I'm nuts. And I would see stuff going in through just this wall, basically. I didn't really see anything on the other side of the house.
Usually when you come in here, they start.
I would just see kind of outlines going in and out. I was watching TV and I felt like a boom, like almost like just real soft, like my dog had jumped on the bed. Sometimes a mist type of thing.
This home seems to be spirit central in Vedersburg.
My bedroom is absolutely full of activity. Just everything goes on in there. Stuff goes off and on. The TV goes off and on. Where the closet is, I hear whispering all the time.
Do they ever interact with you? Do they ever seem to notice you, or
Only
the guy
one
that
time
stands
in the doorway. Yeah, the one time when my husband saw it, he said, "Go away, we don't want you here," and kind of came forward. And he was like, "Whoa." He goes from the refrigerator to the wall, to the refrigerator to the wall.
But you're getting interaction. I see, that's not residual.
Their experience was like a shimmering curtain.
Yeah,
it passes
yeah.
through the room,
Yes.
or comes to them.
Yeah, and it'll be like in the door, and then I'll just kind of see it, and it'll go like this, and then it goes through, like almost like how an orb would go around, kind of like it just kind of, and I don't really know what it is. It's not a human form, it's not any form. You see me looking over there.
Do you have central air or any vents that blow? Because it has been cold past my knees. I don't feel it up here.
No, it's
just
down.
Below knee level, there's this coldest breeze coming.
The only cold I ever feel is it's right
Yeah,
here.
it came right. I saw it right when you were starting. It felt. It just.
Yeah, it's just totally weird because it should be cold on this side, right? Because the window's open, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's cold on this side.
There.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm asking about the window and ductwork, because where's it coming from? It feels like it blows in the door past my legs, and
I keep looking over there because I can see the waviness right above your head in the corner.
coldness is gone. I'm getting hot. The coldness quit.
Yeah.
And it always moves this way. It never moves this way.
No, it's not
it moves
coming
this
from
way.
Yeah, it always seems just flowing inward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
that
just-
serpentine energy I saw when I was walking. It's like
Bald head, mustache, goatee, kind of heavy set, vest.
Yeah, because I just got hit with that cold.
Long sleeve, button shirt here, and I can't really tell what kind of pants he's wearing. Obviously he's wearing pants, but...
Did somebody else come in the room just now?
Only place that things come in and out of from is right here. It's on a pretty regular basis. I noticed that it happens more around the fall for some reason.
What I'm thinking is if we put a camera on the outside there.
What'll happen when you first go in there is the natural tri-field will probably go off until it adjusts you being there.
We've got the K2 set up on the bed with which measures ECM, the cell sensor. We've got an IR camera pointing this direction. We have an IR camera pointing in the opposite direction toward that camera.
I want you to take this camera, and there's the button right there.
Okay.
And then if you actually see something, you just point at it and shoot it.
Okay.
In an experiment, the crew sent Darla into the bedroom alone and set up their surveillance equipment to watch from the other room.
When he starts it. Do you see that?
No, what?
That.
Yeah, I just did there. Right from her going that direction?
Yeah. There was a lot there.
Well, the girl that was murdered, I know it was around in the 50s, and she was a teenage girl.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't know if that was her or not in my room. This is so weird. She had moved here from California. That's where I'm from. And she has blonde hair. Came out here, got sent out here because she got pregnant. Parents didn't want her there. They sent her here to live with relatives. And they fought a lot. And one night they heard a lot of fighting, heard a bang, and she wasn't out to catch the bus the next morning. Right after, probably 9 or so in the morning, after the school bus had gone and everybody noticed she's missing, they had the basement filled in, concreted in. And no one ever saw her again.
Were you really fond of that relative?
In the left corner of that door, you'll see that's where the vapor comes in and kind of spreads out up here. It seems more like a sadness.
Can you tell us the name of your pet?
And she's going like this, and then she just goes like down through the bottom of the floor. Like she just goes right through the center, bottom of my bed, and she's gone. She just goes down the center of the bed.
Right. No, I feel it.
Now, something that would interact, like she's having depressions in the bed and things like that. Now that wouldn't be residual because that'd be something that's physically interacting with her. So she may have two different things taking place here.
Up in the right corner, we hear music sometimes, and it's like a maybe World War II type of big band type music. Feel like somebody looking at you, kind of that feeling of somebody, you know, like it really bothers me, the guy in the doorway. It's basically the same apparitions over and over.
What is it about this house that has trapped these spirits here, replaying the same actions night after night?
If you want to equate 1876, that was the same year General Custer was getting his hair lifted by the Indians. Stealing chickens, stealing cattle rustling. Back in the days that the jail was first built, they had the Horse Thieves Association. So basically that was the part of, you know, most of the biggest crimes in the area. We've had some people housed there that were murderers.
Back in 1883, Mr. and Mrs. Atkinson had to come to Fowler that day for some business. Their youngest daughter drove them over to Templeton.
Homicide of a young lady.
When she went back home, she yelled for Ada, and she didn't hear any voices, so she looked around the house, and then she went upstairs, and there was Ada laying in a puddle of blood.
A hired hand was accused of murdering her.
She went downstairs screaming, and everybody came from every direction quickly. The county coroner was Mr. McConnell. And Mr. McConnell described the wounds for the newspaper down to the last detail. how many slices she had on her body with a knife, and one big enough to actually stick a man's hand in it, described. She was brutally murdered. But they couldn't understand. Not a thing was missing in the house. Nothing was touched. And they asked for help, and they got it. And Mr. Pickard, the agency, asked Jacob Nelling a couple of times, questioned him several times. He finally admitted he did it. So they hurried up and brought him over to Fowler and had a pre-hearing.
They had him locked up in the old county jail.
When they brought him back to Benton County, the boys got together down to Oxford, Temple, in that area, to come up to the jailhouse, and they knocked on the side door softly. So Mr. Scanlon thought it was a woman. Of course, when he stuck his head out, there was a 44 on his forehead.
And a band of vigilantes from Oxford come over and broke him out of jail.
Like I said, I feel that much back in there, but right in here, something explosive happened or something. There was a lot of emotion.
We came after Jacob Nelling. He says, well, I guess you could have him.
For some reason, this is the one really negative spot right here. So
this is the Benton County Jail in Fowler. We're recording here. The time is
8:50.
Is John here?
He said, which cell are you in? He said, well, he's in the first cell on the left-hand side on the ground floor. Men went in to get him. Took a sledgehammer and busted off the lock.
that up energy is really distressing.
So they took him back to Oxford, in the back of a buggy. And they asked him the questions, did you kill any other person, and so forth and so on and so forth. He answered every question. And before they hung him, said, do you want to pray? And they said, no, he's already done his prayer. And
took him over to Oxford and hung him in a tree over there right outside the house that the homicide took place.
It's somewhere right in this area where the hanging had occurred.
And just about blocked from the house where he had killed the girl at, they hung him on a tree.
I feel like he's with 3 people that were very involved with him, and he's made peace about it.
Okay. And you said you think there's a photograph?
Yeah, I think there's a photograph. I think they documented it. I think they document it.
Damage to the jail was minimal, you know.
Or something built to what happened. This was not just like, oh, I'm going to declare my love this day to you. Boom, you're rejecting me, I'm going to kill you. That's not what happened. It was, something had been going on. Something had been building with this whole thing.
Passion. She was about 14 years old, a young, attractive young lady, and he was middle-aged. I think he actually was a Civil War veteran. He was single. Everybody liked him. Jacob Nelling was a common man. He was quite normal. I mean, he was a hard worker and never gave anybody any trouble. They were quite surprised when it was him. He loved the family. He was in the wrong place at the wrong time, more than anything else. So they hung him high and dry. Of course, as soon as he got him lynched, all hell broke loose. The governor immediately formed a committee to come out and find out every blank that did it and want them lynched. Of course, nobody telling anybody because they all had masks on. There's only one list that I know of, and it's in my safe. The list of the guys were the leading citizens. Some military officers of the Civil War was in the group. Of course, the following day, it was a circus in Benton County. Everybody had a buggy or a horse or a wagon or anything. Went to Oxford to see the lynching. They let out the academy school, and Mrs. Greenwood was in that class, and I talked to her before, a long time ago, I'd say 40 years ago. So you remember the Jacob Nelling lynching? He said, certainly do. I was in 3rd grade that year. And she told me all about how they let school out and took those kids for almost 1.5 miles or 2 miles down to see him hanging on the tree before they cut him down later that morning.
Have we heard evidence of the lynch mob carrying out their vigilante justice? Do they continue to seek out revenge in the afterworld?
Left a chair on the stage, and when I would walk back that way to turn off the light on my way back through, I could clearly see someone sitting in that chair.
And it really got powerful when we opened and started having the entertainment. That's when we really noticed a lot of things.
But I had gone back here. Right around here.
You heard it out here somewhere?
Walk right up behind me. I was like this, and I thought she walked in right behind me here. And I turned around, and obviously there wasn't nothing there.
I knew it was haunted right away. I would see dark shadows. And then little by little, they would say, Drina, there's water dripping, but there's no water. Like you'll feel it. You'll see customers grabbing their head and going,
you know what's funny about that? All day today, I felt like water's been dripping on me.
Are you kidding?
No. I kept thinking, is it raining? Yeah. And then I wouldn't have any water on me, but it would feel like there was water on me.
We were in here alone renovating, and I would see somebody walk by, and it was a man. I could see him, and I would turn and, oh, hi. Oh, no, nothing.
Well, you said that the owner of the original farmhouse was named St. Clair.
Right.
And you found that out after you had dubbed this
I found that out within the last few months. Yeah.
See if we can find a ghost, huh?
Oh, we'll find the ghost. We always do.
Now we always keep them together inside each other like this so that they won't fall. My chef came in my office and said one of the delivery guys who brings our linens knocked the lamps over and broke them. Well, my daughter, while I was kind of yelling at the guy on the phone, my daughter was checking the surveillance, and she's like, get off the phone. I'm like, what? Get off the phone, get off the phone. Okay, you know. She says, look at the surveillance. And the video surveillance is, it's like movement, you know, it's censored, so if you move, it'll catch it. And any motion at all. Well, these lamps, one was already down, but it didn't catch it falling. It's motion censored. So it went from here to here, and it was 5 minutes after the gentleman left with the linens. So we realized, wait, that was 5 minutes later, there's no windows, there was nothing to blow those off. One of them had already fallen on the ground and stood up by itself, and you'll be able to see it going like this. The other one was levitating. It was hanging right here, and it was just hanging. They should have either...
And that's on your tapes from your surveillance?
Yes, that's on my surveillance camera.
I hope you kept that.
Oh, we've got it. Yes, we've got it. There's somebody down there. I don't know if it's Indians or a murder victim or just, you know, in the olden days when people lived on farms, they just were buried on their own land. But I feel like whatever it is, I really feel when I leave and I say, Clarence, whoever it is, little girl, take care of the place for us. I was parked right there, and I was getting in my car, parked right in front of the building. They were parked on the far side of the parking lot. As I open my car and stick my leg in, I hear this loud, like teenage rock and roll metal music playing. I thought, oh boy, some teenager's gonna get people mad because it was really early in the morning. And I started to look in my portable window and there's flashing lights. Guys, come here. And they're like, what is that? I go, it's in the club. My jukebox was playing by itself. It was playing a Celtic metal song about coming out of the grave. And listen, I have sat and watched that jukebox. You guys can go record it. It moves colors very slowly. Green, blue, doesn't matter what you play. Heavy metal, rap, love song, country. It moves very slow. It was like, and we're just, I felt like I was walking into a party I wasn't invited to. I felt ice cold and I got nauseous. It was just for a small space. I said, guys, we weren't invited here. You know, there's something going on. I think it's one of the previous owners who maybe passed away, and I'm not real up on all the terminology, but what I've been told is I'm a musician, which is why I bought this. All the electricity, all the lights, all the energy, because we have entertainment every night we're open. And there's just a lot going on with the electricity.
We're recording here, this is Drinas. We are on the old foundation of the farmhouse.
Are you tending to the farm animals?
Who's the little girl? What is your name?
You know, your mother's waiting for you. You can go to her anytime you want.
Maybe he feels like he needs to help you keep your place.
I think so. But people have told me sell, buy another Drinas somewhere else. It's like, nope, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving my land.
Very old-fashioned, does not like females. And we took a wall down in the basement, and that's when things stirred it up.
I was sleeping over at my brother Billy's house, right here, and the table was right here.
At first, what had started happening was we kind of just didn't recognize it, and then things started to get more hostile around the house. Doors closing, cabinets opening, silverware placing around the house, toys moving by themselves.
And there was a car on the table, and all of a sudden I look over and there was a car coming towards my face, and that's when it hit me.
It's more when a female is alone in the house, or at night, if we have everything turned off, you can hear it. And at the same time at night, it will start. Starts around usually 11:30, and from 11:30 till about 1:30 is when it continues to go on. My oldest son is 2, and he sits at the basement stairs and has a conversation with it downstairs. And we'll toss it toys downstairs.
He got his mom's attention and said, "Mom, man, man!"
So that used to be like right in front of that pile, and it's even scooted farther back from the other night of what it was.
Wait. Here's down.
Desperate to prove the frightening occurrences in their house, they put flour on the floor in hopes of catching evidence of toys moving in the basement.
And the dog had ran into the kitchen door and started growling. Comes around usually around midnight. Will come up from the basement and make his presence known.
I would say around midnight.
Every night.
And I've heard the door in the basement open.
If there's anyone with us now, we would like to get your voice on recording. Who are you? Do you believe in God? Sitting on the bench in the dark right here when he felt
somebody grabbed the bottom of my foot, and now that I think about it, it had to be a pretty big hand because I felt the sides of my ankles being squeezed in and my foot was lifted up.
something lift up his leg, like somebody pushing up on his leg. And when that happened, all we heard was, "Oh shit!" And he jumped off the bench into the darkness. I mean, he couldn't even see anything in front of him.
What's wrong?
Something just moved and lifted my foot up.
When I slow the footage down, it seems like there's more than just his shadow. There's something darker entwined with the shadow of his reaction.
When I started to recognize the things going on, it put an emotional toll on me because it was like something in this house is coming in here to tear this family apart, and I wasn't going to let that happen. So the more that it interacted with me, the more that I interacted with it, getting very like, you know, leave this family alone, you need to leave this house, you're gone. You need to pass over, this is my house now, this is not yours. And that would just kind of make it even more mad.
I don't know, like when I first heard about it and I slept over, like I was really scared and all, but like I could like feel like the tense sensation, you know? Like you can feel it like walking towards you.
these years of exploring the paranormal, I've uncovered more questions than answers. But I do know this: the departed have a way of telling their stories, whether through history or haunting. Their existence in our world is clear, in the heat of the day or the dead of night.
And I was getting in my car parked right in front of the building. They were parked on the far side of the parking lot. As I open my car and stick my leg in, I hear this loud, like teenage rock and roll metal music playing. And I'm thinking, oh, it's a kid in the neighborhood. Boy, you know, windows down, they're going to get yelled at. And I start to look in my portable window, and there's flashing lights. And so I go, guys. So we come walking in, right along the bar, to the jukebox. When I get to a certain point, I felt like I was walking into a party I wasn't invited to. I felt ice cold and I got nauseous. It was just for a small space, right about from here to the jukebox where that rack is. And I felt like, ooh, I said, guys, we weren't invited here. You know, there's something going on. And when we looked on the super search, number one, you have to put extra money in to search for that song. We searched for the song. It's not on my jukebox. You have to download it off the internet. No jukebox plays for free a super search song. Believe me, I've tried. And we're just standing there, and I'm like, first of all, I'm freaking out because it's so loud. Even though I'm in a band, it was loud. And then I'm going, I don't remember ever seeing a flash like that. We're going back in. I said, oh yeah. Because I'm not, and we're just standing there, and I'm like, first of all, I'm freaking out because it's so loud. Even though I'm in a band, it was loud. And then I'm going, I don't remember ever seeing a flash like that. We're going back in. I said, oh yeah. Because I'm not afraid. I might get startled and freaked out, but I have no fear of whatever's here. So we come walking in, right along the bar, to the jukebox. When I get to a certain point, I felt like I was walking into a party I wasn't invited to. I felt ice cold and I got nauseous. It was just it doesn't happen. It doesn't play anything for free. It just shows you video faces of artists, a song title, and it'll just change colors. But this night, it was like, I mean loud. We've turned our jukebox full blast, and it's not that loud. There's only a certain level you can get that jukebox for obvious reasons. And way, way louder than I've ever heard the jukebox. It doesn't play anything for free. It just shows you video faces of artists, a song title, and it'll just change colors. But this night, it was like, I mean loud.
When we were down here, we felt intense anger. Up here, not through my eyes, but up here, I saw a black swirling mist right about here. Just almost like a vortex. No, it's like, some of these old homes are like that though, and this used to be a dirt floor. When we were down here, we felt intense anger. Up here, not through my eyes, but up here I saw a black swirling mist right about here. Just almost like a vortex.